Great. So today we're going to start out on our back. So you can start out lying down. And let's start out coming into like a lying down butterfly pose. So bringing the feet together, allowing your knees to relax out to the side. And then go ahead and place one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. So we're just going to start with a little breathing. So just one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, to just kind of notice the rise and fall of your breath. So we're just going to start to lengthen our breath here, taking long, deep inhales through your nose. Good. Long, deep exhales out through your nose. So just starting to relax your body with each breath. Feel kind of yourself becoming more present as well. Kind of really tuning into the feeling of being outdoors. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose. And kind of in this pose, start to notice your kind of hips starting to open up. Maybe your inner legs starting to stretch. Just allowing them to release and relax. Each breath, just kind of letting go of any tension. Taking a moment here to really kind of just feel and observe being outside in the marina or wherever you're at right now. So the feeling right now, sun starting to set, the breeze cooling us off, gentle waves, sounds maybe of the birds, the marina, the city. Not wanting to change it, just embracing it all for exactly what it is part of our practice, part of our experience today. Take a moment and just remind yourself of something you're grateful for, or just set an intention for class before we start. If your eyes are closed, you can open up your eyes. You're going to straighten your legs and reach your arms straight up overhead. So we're going to do a shoulder neck exercise. If you've come before, you probably know what it is. I think we did it earlier this week or last week. So go ahead and grab your elbows. You're going to make a frame right above your chest. You're grabbing, with both sides of your elbows. You're going to bring your arms over to the right side as you twist your neck over to the left side. So your arms and your head are in opposite directions. And then inhale, come back through to the center. Exhale, your arms, your shoulders are going to go to the other side as you look to the opposite side. So we're going to do that a few times. Inhaling back through to the center. Exhaling, head and neck goes in the opposite direction. So what this little exercise is doing is kind of helping relieve that shoulder neck jam, that tension we sometimes get in that shoulder neck area. You can get from, at work, in an office, or just kind of sleeping the wrong way, or just from some of these like daily things that we do. Let's do one more time on each side. Very good. So from here, we're going to bend our right knee in towards our chest. And just for the people on the upper deck, I'm just going to tell you what you're going to do so you don't have to look up. We're going to do a half happy baby on each side and then a full happy baby. So starting with the half happy baby, you're going to reach for the outside of that right foot. So if you can reach the outside of that right foot, you're going to reach for it. If not, you're just going to reach the ankle. You want that knee to be bent, the knee out to the side, so you're stretching out the hip and the inner leg, a little bit the glutes. If possible, possible, the foot's up towards the sky, knees being pressed down. Good. Staying here, coming back to your breath. And whenever you're in each pose in Yin Yoga, because we hold it longer, take a moment and just kind of really notice where you're feeling that pose. And it's kind of a fine line between trying to be active, but also trying to relax the muscle that you're working. So active in the sense that this isn't restorative yoga. We want to stretch it deeply, but we don't want to force it. You want the muscles to still be able to relax because we are going to be holding the poses longer. Let's stay here about 2 more deep breaths. And then you can hug that knee in towards the chest. Let's reach our arms out long, straighten the legs. So just take a nice long stretch from your fingertips to your toes. And then we're going to switch sides. So half happy baby on the other side. Bending the left knee in towards your chest. Reach for the pinky edge side, the outside of that left foot if possible, if not just the ankle. You're bringing that knee out to the side, but also pressing the knee down towards the mat. Stretching the hip on the left side, a little bit the glutes, the inner leg. Coming back to those deep breaths. So throughout class, just reminding yourself the same breathing that we were doing at the beginning of class. Long, deep inhales and exhales through your nose. Then from here, we're going to come to a full happy baby. So you're going to bring that right leg up. So you're going to have both feet at the same time. From here, you can maybe rock side to side. So this is partly where the pose gets its name. And then kind of play with pressing the lower back down into the mat, so flattening the back. And that's going to feel really good for some people. But for some people, it might feel better to lift the tailbone up a little bit as you rock side to side. So just kind of playing with it and seeing which feels better for your body. And then let's take about 3 more deep breaths here. And then from here, you can hug your knees, both knees in towards your chest. And we're going to roll forward and back about 4 or 5 times. So coming up almost, kind of just a hover, and then rolling back along your spine. Do this about 2 more times. On your last one, you can come all the way up to a seat. All right, very good. So we're going to do a seated, so our next Yin Yoga pose is going to be a seated butterfly pose. So bringing the feet together, and I'm going to kind of watch the time. So we're going to be doing these poses between 3 and 5 minutes. So in this butterfly pose, sometimes in yoga we want to bring the heels in really close to get a really deep stretch, but since we're holding it longer, we want to push the heels away, a little bit more relaxed stretch. And actually, as you push the heels away a little bit more, it stretches more of your hips. When you bring the heels in real close, it stretches more of your inner legs. So from here, just draw the shoulders back, lengthen through your spine, sitting up nice and tall. And then we're going to start to hinge forward, coming from our hips. Even if it's just a tiny little bit, finding length in our spine. And we'll spend a few breaths here, focusing on initiating the pose through your hips, coming forward. And then whenever you're ready, you can start to kind of relax a little bit more. So rounding your shoulders, maybe rounding your back. You can bring your hands down or your forearms. And you want to try to find your edge in the pose for right now. So that edge being that kind of tricky spot where your feeling a nice deep stretch, but you're not yanking yourself down, you're not pulling it, you're not forcing it. And then once you've come to your edge for right now, because it may change as we hold it longer, you want to notice where you're feeling the stretch in your body and try to kind of allow those muscles to relax. The reason we want to allow the muscles to relax is because in Yin Yoga, we're trying to stretch beyond the tissues of the muscles. So when we do other types of stretching or vinyasa, more active yoga or any kind of active working out, we're mostly stretching the muscles. But in Yin Yoga, we're trying to get beyond the muscle tissues into the deep tissues of the joints, the ligaments, and the bones. So those tissues are harder to access, they're deeper, and they require this kind of gentle pressure over a longer period of time. So that's kind of what we're trying to do in Yin Yoga. Yin Yoga is also the perfect opportunity to kind of just sit with your thoughts, kind of like a type of meditation practice or just kind of mindfulness. Using your breath as a tool to come back to if you notice your mind just starts to become too busy. See, just kind of checking in if you can go a little bit further now that we've held it a little bit longer. We'll be here about 2 to 3 more deep breaths. From here, take your time, moving nice and slow to straighten your back, make your way up. So after our Yin Yoga poses, we're just going to do some kind of like counter stretches. So from here, you can take the feet out wide, take your hands behind you, and we're just going to drop both knees side to side a few times, kind of releasing any tension in your spine, bringing some movement back to our legs. You can even take your legs out in front of you, just kind of shake them out a little bit. And then we're going to come to reverse tabletop. So bringing the heels in towards you, hands behind you, lift your hips up nice and high. And then allow your head to drop back. Staying here about 5 breaths. And then you can slowly lower down. All right, so our next Yin Yoga pose is going to be a low lunge, or in Yin it's called dragon pose. So for this pose, we're on our knees a lot. So if you have a blanket, you're going to use the blanket as extra padding for your knees. If you don't have a blanket, or if your mat's thick, you might not need it. If you don't have a blanket, you don't need it. You can kind of take your mat and you're going to make it a little bit thicker like this to have extra padding for your knees. So we're going to start with our right foot forward. All right, and my mat's pretty thick, so I don't actually need the extra padding. All right, so for the pose, we're going to start, just take a moment to check our setup, and you guys look pretty good, but basic setup is your knee's going to be over top of the ankle. You want to make sure that it's not, forward or it's not back, and then you want to lift that back knee and just see if it can go back a little bit further, because you just want a long space between the front heel and the back knee to get a really good stretch through here. All right, so from here, a few options. We're in the pose right now. You can keep your fingertips down in the pose because we're mostly stretching the inside of the legs, the hips, or if that doesn't feel good for your back, you can take your hands here and kind of stay here in the pose. And you can do it, maybe part of the pose you're up here and maybe part you're down here. Either way, it's fine because the main focus is the legs, not really the upper body. Good. Coming back to your breath. Allowing those muscles in the inner legs, kind of on both sides, the hips, to just relax into the pose. And then from here, we're just going to add a variation. So you're going to take the right foot over to the right. So both hands are inside that right foot. And we're just going to kind of stretch out the hip a little bit. So you're going to come onto that pinky edge side of that right foot, pressing the right hand to that knee. Little twist maybe. So looking over your right shoulder, maybe dipping the left hip down, just kind of stretching it out a little bit more. Nothing really in particular. And then you can place that foot back down. Both hands can either stay right here inside the foot, stretching a little bit deeper into the hip here, or if you're a little bit more flexible, maybe you're going to try to come down onto one forearm, even just kind of testing it, seeing how that feels, and you can always come back up, or maybe even coming down onto both forearms. Two to three more breaths here. And then take your time to make your way up onto your hands. Make your way out of the pose. So just take your time and just kind of stretch it out. So when you come out, maybe just stretching that leg out in the back. We'll come to a downward facing dog to just stretch both of the legs out as well. So spreading out the fingers, lift the hips up and back. Just staying here in a few breaths, kind of like a counter stretch, maybe heel toeing the feet. And then make your way back down to your hands and knees. And we're going to do a few rounds of cat-cow pose before we move to the other side. So option for if you want to kind of stretch the wrists, you can take the hands over out to the side, or even if it feels okay, bringing the fingers in towards you as you do your cat-cow pose. So inhale to drop the belly, lift the tailbone, look up. Exhale to round. So kind of just working on stretching the spine a little bit, just moving with your breath, going through these two poses. One more round of cat-cow. And then let's take a brief child's pose before we do the other side. So you can take the knees apart, sit back towards your heels, stretch the arms out. And then making your way back up onto your hands and knees, and we'll set up for that low lunge or dragon pose on the other side. So if you want to add that extra padding for your knees, take your time to set up. And then we're going to bring the left foot forward. Take that back knee, bring it down and back. Just checking that knees over the ankle. Sometimes in the pose we do take our knee forward, but that's more to stretch the calf. But right now we want it right on top of the ankle. And just taking a moment to kind of just notice how this side's feeling compared to the other side. And knowing you can spend part of the time with your hands down or even lengthening through your spine if you want to straighten your back, if that feels better. From here, we're going to start to move our left foot over to the left, so both hands are kind of inside that left foot. And we're just going to start by stretching it out. So you can come onto the pinky edge side of that foot, take your left hand to that left knee, kind of just opening up the hip, maybe adding a little twist, looking over your shoulder, and stretching it out. Good, and then you can press that foot back down, both hands on the inside, and kind of just testing how it feels on this side compared to the other. So maybe trying to bring one forearm down, noticing if this side is harder or if it's more flexible. And just take your time going deeper. So maybe pausing with one forearm, seeing if you can bring the other one down or seeing if you need to come up. We'll be here about one more minute. About 2 more deep breaths. And then just moving nice and slow, take your time to make your way out of the pose. Just kind of stretching it out. Once you come out, maybe just straightening it out in the back, doing a few hip circles. And then if you want, coming into a downward facing dog to stretch it out as kind of a counter stretch, or you can just do kind of a cat-cow stretch again. then whenever you're ready, we're going to come back down onto your hands and knees. Maybe if you want to grab a drink of water. And our next pose is going to be child's pose, our next Yin Yoga pose. So for our child's pose, taking the knees out wide, the width of the mat, sitting back towards the heels so big toes are together. And then whenever you're ready, reaching the arms forward, bringing the forehead down. Option to kind of relax the forearms down in the child's pose. Or if you want, you can straighten the arms. Child's pose is a nice stretch for our back, especially our lower back. Also for your inner legs, a little bit your hips, even your arms and your shoulders. From here, we're going to come to a child's pose twist. So you're just going to walk your hands over to the right side. So option to just keep them to the right, or if it feels better, you can bring your left hand on top of your right hand. Bring your forehead back down. And just noticing kind of as you twist to the right, how that stretches a little bit more along your side of your body, along your obliques. And then taking your time, we'll just walk our hands back through to the center and over to the other side. And then just walking your hands back through to the center. Take your time to walk your hands back just about halfway, and then we're going to bring our knees together, and we're going to do child's pose variation. We're just going to take our hands behind us, our palms up, and then maybe bring the forehead down. So this is just our counter stretch to relax the inner legs, relax the shoulders, the arms, about 5 breaths. And then you can make your way up to a seat. All right. So our next pose is called half butterfly in Yin. So this being our butterfly, and then one leg being out long, half butterfly. So you can start on either side, just taking one foot out long, the other foot towards the inner thigh. You're going to relax that foot. So if we're doing a shorter stretch or a shorter length of time, you might flex it, but here we're going to let it relax. Square your hips to the leg that's out long, and then start to walk your hands down over that leg. So finding your edge, and then once you kind of found your edge for right now, allow your body to relax a little bit. Notice where you're feeling the stretch. So this is stretching our hamstring and the leg that's out long. It's also kind of stretching and strengthening the knee, your back a little bit. Checking in and seeing if you can go a little bit deeper or if you already have. Finding stillness in the pose, but also just embracing the stillness, embracing the aspect of the practice where you don't have to move, you don't have to do anything, just kind of coming back to your breath. From here, we're just going to add a little variation. You're just going to walk your hands to the center, so between the knee and the leg that's out long, maybe coming down onto your forearms or just wherever it's comfortable. About 2 or 3 more deep breaths. Taking your time to walk your hands back to just kind of straighten your back. Pause there. And then we can just kind of shake out our legs in between. We'll windshield wiper knee side to side. Sometimes we kind of feel a little bit stiff after holding the pose for that amount of time, but it usually goes away pretty quickly. And we'll do a reverse tabletop as a counter stretch again. So bringing the heels in towards you, hands behind you, lifting the hips up, allowing the head to drop back if that feels okay. And then you can make your way back down. We'll just set up for the other side. So just switching sides. So squaring your hips towards that leg that's out long, relaxing the foot, and then taking your time to make your way down. Finding your edge in the pose for right now. Finding a good stretch, but not forcing it. And then from here, you can walk your hands to the center between your knee and the leg that's out long. And then take your time to make your way out of the pose, just straightening your back, maybe just pausing at the top, shaking the legs out, and then we'll windshield wiper the legs side to side. And we're going to do that reverse tabletop again, counter stretch. So heels in towards you, hands behind you, lift up. Good, and then lowering back down. Maybe grab a drink of water. You have water. So our next stretch is going to be for our back. So we're going to come on to our stomach into Sphinx pose. All right, so for the setup for this pose, you want to chuck your elbows are under your shoulders or even a little bit forward of your shoulders. Yeah. And then you want to make sure that your shoulders are away from your ears, so you don't want them to kind of scrunch up to your ears. You want to draw them apart so that kind of this area has to be active. Keep the shoulders away from your ears, and then let your feet relax behind you. And this is the pose right here. So this is a really good stretch for a nice gentle stretch for our lower back. You can kind of decrease the stretch a little bit just by moving your head down and looking down towards the mat, and just slightly increase the stretch by looking forward or even kind of up a little bit, bringing your heart forward. Allow the muscles in the back to just relax and release. I'm going to get a picture for you all. So if this feels really good here, option to just stay here. Or if you want to try to go a little bit deeper, you can take the hands out a little bit wider. Straighten your elbows, coming into a seal pose just for like about 30 seconds or so. If you want to come back down on your forearms after a few breaths, you can come back down onto your forearms. One more deep breath here. And then you can make your way all the way down. We're just going to rest on our belly. So you can bring one side of your head down, your hands down by your side with your palms up. And then you can lift your head up and just bring the other side of your head down, the other cheek down. And from here, you can make your way up onto your hands and knees. Our next pose is going to be pigeon pose. So pigeon pose, you can start from a down dog if you want, or just start from your hands and knees. So I'm just going to start from my hands and knees. But either way, you're bringing the right knee behind the right wrist and then walking that right foot over to the side, or just grabbing it, bringing it over to the side. Then taking that back knee back as far as it'll go. You can maybe pause in an upright pigeon for a breath or two, and then make your way down to a resting pigeon. Also, if this pigeon pose is very uncomfortable, you have really tight hips, you can do a variation, which is just going to be a seated figure 4 stretch. So just working the same motion with your hips, but from here or lying down, figure 4 stretch. So it's just the option if the pigeon pose is really uncomfortable. So this is a really nice deep hip stretch. You want to allow your body to kind of just release and relax into this pose. You can either have the forearms down or even reaching the arms out long, bringing the forehead down. Allow your face to soften. Just kind of remind yourself, tell yourself to just let go. About 2 or 3 more breaths here. Take your time to make your way out. So maybe pausing in that upright pigeon for 2 to 3 more breaths, straightening your back. Good. And then we'll make our way out, just kind of stretching it out. So you can do a few hip circles on your hands and knees. Another stretch that might feel good is downward facing dog. Or even just a cat-cow. But just kind of stretching it out, whatever way feels good, before we do the other side. And then when you're ready, we'll set up for the other side. So bringing the left hand behind the left wrist. Sorry, the left knee behind the left wrist, and then walking the foot out to the side. Back knee back. And taking your time, making your way down. Noticing how this side feels compared to the other side. Softening the muscles in your face. Telling your body to just kind of let go and surrender into the pose. About 2 or 3 more deep breaths. Take your time to make your way up, maybe coming to an upright pigeon for a few breaths before you come out of the pose. And then when you're ready, making your way out, stretching the leg out behind you, doing a few hip circles. And maybe stretching a little bit more, coming into a down dog, or even just a child's pose. All right. And then from here, we're going to maybe take one more drink of water or whatever you want, and we're going to come onto our back. And we'll finish on our back. Once you're on your back, you're just going to take a nice long stretch. So straightening your legs, reaching your arms up overhead, just stretching everything out nice and long. From here, hug your right knee in towards your chest. And then we're going to bring that right knee up and over to the left side for a twist. You can relax that left hand on the knee. Right arm can come out to the side or just kind of keep it bent at the elbow up overhead. And then take your time to make your way back through to the center. We're just going to switch. So bring your left knee in towards your chest, right leg out long. And then bring that knee up and over to the side. So the twisting should feel good for your back and for your spine. Opposite arm, left arm can come out to the side or just bent at the elbow up overhead. And then you can make your way back through to the center. And we're going to make our way into Shavasana. So kind of getting out any last movement, any last stretch, any last fidgeting, and finding a comfortable position for the last, like about 3 minutes or so of class to allow your body to just relax. Maybe allowing your feet to open out to the side, but really finding what's ever comfortable for you. It might be more comfortable to have the knees bent and then knees relaxed in towards each other. But just allow the body, the back to be straight, to lie flat. This is a pose just like all the other poses. Allowing your body to sink a little bit deeper into the mat. And then from here, take a nice deep inhale, complete exhale. One more time, nice deep inhale, complete exhale. Start to roll out your ankles, roll out your wrists a few times in each direction. Just slowly starting to bring movement and life back to your body. And then you can reach your arms up overhead, bend your knees, just like you're waking up in the morning. And then roll onto one side. Take your time to make your way all the way up to a seat. All right. So we'll finish by bringing our hands to our heart center one more time. Inhale, reach out and up. Exhale to press the palms together. Bring your hands back down. Just kind of taking a moment to reflect on your practice. Feeling a sense of gratitude. Thanking yourself for coming out tonight, making the time to do something healthy for your body, for your mind. Just allow the positive energy that you feel from class to be a benefit to yourself and the people around you throughout the evening and throughout the day tomorrow. Namaste. Great job.